Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic peeps, to my channel, Slime and Slashers, where, yeah, we talk about everything from Nickelodeon slime to horror movie slashers, but plenty of stuff in between, including books. And this video is my favorite book-themed video. Well, besides a book haul. It is not a book haul, but it is the second best kind of video, which is my TBR video. I love doing these monthly TBR videos. I freaking love making lists. And I gotta say, this is the most epic TBR list that I have ever made. Is it ridiculous? Yes. Is it freaking insane? Yes. Is it manageable? Definitely not. But we're gonna try to get to the books anyway, and even if I don't get to the books, you know what? I want to talk about the books. I want to make a list of the books, and I have done that, and they have officially landed on my September TBR. So I will share with you my freaking awesome, very exciting September TBR list, including the readathon books that I'll be reading for my special Patreon-only Carnival and Clown themed readathon, because I love books about clowns, carnivals, circuses, etc. So without further ado, stay right where you are, don't move! You might want to grab a snack though, because I have a feeling this TBR will be long, but who knows. So maybe grab a snack or a drink or something to keep you occupied, and I will be right back, right after this short intro, and we will frickin' talk about all the badass books. Welcome back, guys! As I mentioned, I love a good list, and geez, have I made up an epic list? Yes, it's a 2-page list for the month of September. September, basically, there are 3 things going on for me personally that I'm trying to dive into in terms of participation, and that is, of course, book clubs, because I do a lot of book clubs, and I've got one buddy read that I'm including in the book club jumble of things. Then I also have Carnival Circus Clown reads, as I mentioned in the intro, for my special Carnival-themed Patreon-only readathon. The reason it's called a Carnival and not a Carnival is because I call my Patreon members Kelsi Corns, Carnival, get it? Yes, bitch! It's gonna be a blast. So that's taking place the first 2 weeks of September, but you can stretch it all month long, which is what I'm gonna be doing. And last but not least, I also want to participate in the Week of Weird, which is a readathon that is hosted by the wonderful, the fabulous, the sweetest person I know on BookTube, and that is Crystal from the channel Fiber Artsy. It is also hosted by Jason from Jason's Weird Reads, so I will be talking about what I'm going to read for the Week of Weird as well, because even though it's only a week long, there are so many weird books that I want to get to. It's insane. I'm like so excited about the weird books. So first, we're going to go through the book club stuff, including my own book club. So without further ado, let's just start off with the book clubs, and then we'll go into the readathons. So here we go, baby. Alright, so first, as I mentioned, my book club, the Midnight Book Society. We are named, of course, after Are You Afraid of the Dark? It's an ode to that awesome 90s Nickelodeon show. I mean, heck, my channel's called Slime and Slashers, so it's very appropriate that my book club is named after a show that was on Nickelodeon, because we're all about nostalgia here, but also horror and also books, so a mix of things. But yeah, I find my book club name to be very appropriate, and I love it so much. So I have a special co-host for the month of September, and that is Lexi from Books with Lexi. She actually picked out the book that we're going to be reading for the month of September. So not only is she a co-host, she is the one who chose the book club choice. And the book club choice is, drum roll, dun 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 dun. I always suck at drum rolls, but hey, I do my best, okay? I'm not very musical, but I'm very excited about this pick, and it is a highly anticipated read for me, but I'm also a little bit nervous, I must admit. And that is the new Cetrion Award book, Looking Glass Sound. I'm so stoked for this. We will have a live show, which will discuss spoilers, and that will take place sometime in October, I'm guessing. We have not set a date, so stay tuned. I do have a book club Discord that is free and open to the public, which is linked down below, so check it out, and be sure to subscribe and follow Lexi, not only because she is the co-host, but also because she makes fantastic content, but also on top of that because she is hosting the Badass Readathon Halloween in October, and I'm gonna be a co-host. More info to come on that later in the upcoming month and a half, but for now, we will just talk about that, my book club book is Looking Glass Sound, and Lexi will be joining me for the live show, and I am stoked for both things. Next book club I want to talk about is Amy McCaw's book club, and Amy McCaw, she might sound familiar to you, and that is because she is a fantastic author, and she also has a YouTube channel. So her YouTube channel is called Amy McCaw, and as I mentioned, she's also an author, and she's the author of Mina and the Undead, and its sequel, Mina and the Slayers, which, by the way, takes place around Halloween time, and both books are set in the 90s, and there will be a third installation coming soon, so that is very exciting. So without further ado, I am going to be a co-host with a lot of other fantastic, wonderful peeps like Erin Megan, Katrina Brown, freaking Kasha from Kasha's Book Cemetery. We are all going to be co-hosting Amy McCaw's book club pick for September, and her book club pick is Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendar Blake. I love Kendar Blake. She wrote one of my favorite books from last year, which was a Buffy themed book. In every generation, I gave that book 5 stars, baby. It is a series, a Buffy series of books. The next one is out, I just have not read it yet. One Girl in All the World, that is the sequel to that, so I will get to that very, very soon, I'm hoping. But for September, I will be getting to a different Kendar Blake book, and I'm super, super pumped because I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of fun. Alright, so thank you so much, Amy, for asking me to be a co-host. I am truly honored and excited. Alright, next book club! Katrina, she's got her brand new Reaper book club that's just been going on for a couple of months, and I love Katrina. I talk about her all the time. If you're not following her somehow, some way, I will let you know that she and everyone else I am mentioning is linked below. Her channel is officially called Katrina Brown, and her book club pick is Carnival themed, which is perfect. If you are a Patreon of mine, and if you're participating in my Carnival Readathon, you do not have to read clown, circus, carnival books, but the prompts are kind of themed about the carnival, even though you don't have to read those types of books. But I'm reading carnival books, so it really fits perfectly that Katrina's book's kind of carnival circus themed, and it is Mouthful of Ashes by Brianna Morgan. And by the way, all 3 book club books that I've talked about so far all have audio, which is very convenient and very helpful. So thank you, audiobooks, for existing, because I will need your help hardcore in September and in October. Next book club pick that I'm hoping to get to is The Exorcist House by Nick Roberts, and that is Amy's book club pick. Now, I know I already mentioned another Amy, but this Amy is Amy from Amy Noel Reads, and she's one of my favorite people in the world, and of course, I always try to participate in her book club picks. Sometimes I don't get to it, but I always try my hardest, so it's another case of I'm going to try my very hardest to get to her book club pick for the month of September, and it sounds very interesting. It's on KU, and it has an audiobook as well, just like the other 3 book club books I've mentioned. Some other book club books that I would love to squeeze in, but I'm not 100% sure if I will or not. I've got 2 more. One is Sav's book club pick from the channel Riveting Reads. I love Sav. She is so zany. She is so full of life and fun. She is just a ball of joy and a ball of energy, both at the same time. I adore her. And we're both co-hosts of Halloween, and so is Kaylee, by the way, from Kaylee's Books. So make sure you follow all of them as well as Lexi, because we'll all be a part of Halloween, and I freaking can't wait. So Sav's book club pick for September is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I'm not a big thriller reader. I don't read a ton of thrillers. I know a lot of people who do. I'm friends with a lot of people who do, including Sav, including Lexi, and a lot of other people. But I actually like Lisa Jewell, and I liked Lisa Jewell before I even dove into horror exclusively. Like, I read, I think, 2 or 3 Lisa Jewell books before I really got into horror hardcore back in, I think, 2020, maybe 2019. And yeah, I've loved her previous work. And it's a thriller author I know I drive with, so why not give the new Lisa Jewell a chance? Because it's Sav's book club pick, why not? And I love Sav. And last but not least, the Pyramid Book Club, they are reading Ascension by Nicholas Binge, and that just seems like a lot of fun. I know Amy from Amy Noel Reads is going to be a guest host for that, so I will try to squeeze it in, but I'm scared because my TBR has never been this stacked and this absurd and this outrageous before. I mean, I've said this in the past that my TBR is out of control, but this time it's for reals out of control. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, and I don't see how I'm going to get to all of these books. But hey, those are my book club hopefuls, and I am just gonna get to what I get to and try my hardest. And the last thing I want to talk about is a buddy read, which is going to be done with my friend Amy, again from Amy Noel Reads. She's going to be reading Night Brothers by Sydney Williams, and she knew I wanted to read it with her, so she asked if I was still up for it, and I said, heck yeah. It does have an audiobook. Not a lot of vintage horror books do. This one does. And we both read the book Nelfs by Sydney Williams earlier this year. Both loved it. I am the one who recommended her Nelfs, and she liked my recommendation, if I do say so myself. Not to brag on myself, but both her and Katrina loved Nelfs. Your mom's a bitch. Your mom's a whore. Just, you don't need to know why I'm saying that, but let's just say those lines are said by little creatures that are creepy, like basically Smurf-like creatures in the book Nelfs, and it's hilarious. I did read another book by Sydney Williams in the month of May, after I read Nelfs. So I read Azarius by Sydney Williams, and I thought it was just okay. So, will this be more towards how I feel about Nelfs, or will this wind up being just okay, like how I felt about Azarius? We will just have to wait and see, but I'm so excited to be reading this with Amy. Essentially, it says,
more than animal, less than human. The drought-stricken Louisiana town of Bristol Springs was turning into a living grave. Little by little, its desperate citizens were watching their dreams die. But the terrible blight was bringing something else to life, a deadly horror far worse than any earthly bane. A vampire with powers greater than mere legend. She summoned the beasts of the night to serve her foul will. Fierce, relentless, they made humans their unnatural prey, leaving them helpless victims of her endless bloodthirst. Now she is growing stronger, insidiously gathering followers, drawing ever closer to completing an unspeakable ritual of nightmare. Only a few townspeople suspect the unthinkable truth. Fewer still will try to stop her monstrous plan, but they will be forced to use nature's most savage forces to turn the tide, in a battle where the choice is between eternal torment or hellish oblivion.
Now we're going to go into talking about the first readathon I'm doing, which of course is my own Patreon readathon, the Carnival Readathon. Again, anybody could read any genre, but people can choose to read Carnival clown books, which that's what I'm doing. So first up is an arc that I want to get to, and that is Jiggly Spot and the Zero Intellect by P.D. Aliva. My friend Christine from the channel Secrets Read is actually going to be reading this as well, so I'm excited that she's trying to dig into it at the same time as I am, and she's also a Patreon member of mine, so it's going to be a lot of fun and perfect for the readathon. And I've heard that it's wild. Everything I've read about this book just seems zany and out there, and I am here to read this book. I cannot wait to see what I think of it. It releases in October, I believe. Next up, I am not picking from my Patreon jar this month, because every month I try to pull a book suggestion from the jar, but I purposely picked something from the jar without doing it randomly. My friend Lauren submitted a book for the jar, and she submitted Cotton Candy Massacre by Christopher Robertson. So you know what? I'm just going to say I'm reading it. I'm not taking the chance on picking a random book that's not Carnival themed. Since Lauren suggested that, and she is a Patreon member of mine, I am just going to read that and pick from my Patreon jar in a future month where, you know, I don't have a theme and don't have a book that was submitted in the jar that would match the theme. By the way, you could find Lauren at Happy Haunts Library. She is criminally underrated as far as YouTube goes. You should subscribe to her if you have not already, because her content is fantastic. The vlog footage is out of this world. She does the best B-roll, but also the way she talks about horror is so elegant and so educated and academic, and I love it. I just love her channel. Please check her out once again if you have not. Next, I will be reading Twilight Eyes by Dean Koontz. This copy is very beat up, as you can see, but hey, I don't care. It's still going to be readable, and I'm excited about this one because it has audio. And let me read you the premise.
They're out there, waiting, watching, unseen by normal eyes, but all too visible to Slim Mackenzie, a young man blessed or cursed by Twilight Eyes. They're out there, lurking in the darkest shadows of an eerie moonlit carnival, feeding their twisted needs with human suffering, and fiendishly plotting the downfall of the human race. They're out there, but don't scream. They'll hear you.
Here's a chunky book I'd like to get to. Twilight Eyes was also chunky, but at least that one has an audiobook. This one, sadly, does not have an audiobook, but I am very, very pumped to get to this nonetheless. This is The Eyes of the Beast by Steve Harris. It actually was sold under the name Adventureland in the UK, so it is known under a different title. over in the UK. Here, though, it's known as The Eyes of the Beast, and look at this freaking cover with this creepy-looking funhouse with this clown-shaped entrance. Heck yeah. I am so jazzed to see what this is all about, see if I like it. It says,
"The terror from everywhere. David knew what was real and what was not. He knew that Sally, the girl he loved, was real. He knew the computer games he played were mere games. When the creature appeared in his bathroom, oozing a corrosive slime that burned everywhere it touched and trying to suck him down the toilet, it was so real that he wanted to scream but couldn't because his lungs burst with the effort of not dying. Then the creature just disappeared, leaving nothing behind but slimy tendrils of ooze, and David figured he had just had a nightmare born of too much computer and not enough sleep. When people started disappearing, though, David knew that the beast he had seen was real enough to snuff the lives of everyone he loved, unless he and Sally and the strange talisman they bought could somehow stop the horror."
this sounds zany and bonkers, and I am ready. I am ready to find out what this is all about. Next up, I have two potential middle grade reads. I have Dr. Shiver's Carnival, which is part of the Spine Chiller series. I've never read anything from this series, but I'm excited to try to get to this one. And also, I've never read a creepover book either, and this one is carnival themed. This is The Ride of Your Life, and this series is by PJ Knight. I own a few of these books, but not as many as I would like to own. These I usually find in used bookstores, but it's a newer book series, and you could find this on Amazon, brand new, of course. But whenever I see any of the creepover books at used bookstores, I swipe them up really quick. And I'm so glad I found a Carnival one of this. And yeah, these would be perfect. I love to try to squeeze in middle grade reads when possible. So not only is my TBR insanely massive and humongous, it's also filled with chunky books. So I don't know what I'm thinking besides having a towering mound of books to get to. Some of the books are big boy chunkers, so I don't know what I'm thinking. But I'm excited about this one. I wanted to get to it last year when I did a month of Carnival reading back in February, but I did not get to it. But now it has an audiobook, so that should help me. This is The Troop by Robert Jackson Bennett, and it sounds like a very interesting, compelling read, and very different. So this is more like concentrating on a traveling vaudeville show versus a circus or a carnival, but it still fits the theme of the carnival that I'm doing.
16-year-old pianist George has joined vaudeville for one reason only, to find the man he suspects to be his father, the great Silenus. Yet he chases down his father's troupe. He begins to understand that their performances are strange, even for vaudeville, for whenever they happen to tour, the very nature of the world seems to change. Because there is a secret within his show so ancient and dangerous that it has won him many powerful enemies, and it's not until after he joins them that George realizes the troupe is simply not touring, they are running for their lives, and soon he will be as well.
Another carnival clown-themed book, The Pilo Family Circus by Will Elliott. This seems very dark, but also a little bit humorous. This also has an audiobook, thankfully, so thank you, audiobooks, for existing.
"You have 2 days to pass your audition. You better pass it, feller. You're joining the circus. Ain't that the best news you ever heard?" This ultimatum is delivered by a trio of psychotic clowns, and it plunges Jamie into the horrific alternate universe of the Pilo Family Circus, a borderline world between hell and earth from which humankind's greatest tragedies have been perpetuated. Yet in this place, peopled by gruesome, grotesque, and monstrous, where violence and savagery are the norm, Jamie finds that his worst enemy is himself. When he applies the white face paint, he is transformed into JJ, the most vicious clown of all, and JJ wants Jamie dead.
Next up, a book I don't have a physical copy of, but I actually found out about this book from my friend Christine, who I mentioned earlier in this video. You could find her again at Secrets Read. She is also criminally underrated in terms of her YouTube channel. Please subscribe to her if you haven't already. She told me about a book called Sallow Bend, which she got in one of her book box subscriptions. This is by Alan Baxter, and the only other book by Alan Baxter that I have read is a very, very funny animal attack book called The Roo, which is supposed to be a campy, loving homage to old school animal attack books from the 80s and beyond, and it was fantastic, so funny, so cheesy, and just a good time. So this one has a carnival circus theme, and again, I only found out about it because of Christine. It has an audiobook, so I said, why not try to read that along with her? Next up, another book I don't own, but I would like to get to, Freezer Burn by Joe R. Lansdale. This also has an audiobook, and it was on my TBR last year when I tried to do a whole Carnival month of reading, and I just didn't get to it, just like I didn't get to The Troop, but I'm going to try this year, and we'll see if it works out or not. Now, here I have a collection of stories. I do not plan on reading the whole thing, but I would like to dip into it a little bit and read a couple of stories out of this. This is Midnight Under the Big Top, Tales of Murder, Madness, and Magic. And guess what author is featured in this book? Robert McCammon, bitch! And that's my favorite author, so I'm very excited. I'm definitely going to try to get to at least his story, and hopefully a few others. Quickly, a few books. I will not go through the summaries or any of the premises for these, but I hope to squeeze these in. I found a circus tent in the woods behind my house by Ben Farthing. This has audio, and also it seems like it would be appropriate for the week of Weird because it's got like a weird sounding element to it. Another one, Golden Land Past Dark by Chandler Clang Smith, also has an audiobook. That one just sounds very intriguing to me. Look up the description if you're intrigued. And last but not least, Attic Clowns by Jeremy Shipp. It's a collection of stories, and that also seems very weird. And so, who knows, I might read those books. I Found a Circus Tent and Attic Clowns near the end of the month because they both seem like they'd be kind of weird carnival clown themed books. If you want some carnival clown amusement park book suggestions from me, I actually have 2 videos talking about those types of books from last year because I did do a public readathon that was all about carnival, clown, amusement park reads, and so on and so forth. I will link those videos down below in case you want to hear what I thought about the books I read for that month. Jax! Jax! What are you barking at? Jax! I don't know what he's barking at. Jax! Here comes his clip-clops. Oh. I don't know what that was. Alright, and now let's get into my week of weird pile of possibilities. I'm not calling it an official TBR because there's no way I'm going to get to all of this in a freaking week because the week of weird runs for about a week, the last week of September. I am so jazzed and pumped. Also, Halloween actually kicks off at the end of September, officially on September 28th, so I've got to freaking really try to balance all of this going on at the same time, but I'm very excited. So I put up a poll on my Patreon Discord asking people the 3 books that they want me to read the most. I gave them like 6 choices, and the 3 weirdish books that got the most votes were these 3 right here. So first up, Motherfucking Sharks by Brian Allen Carr, and pardon my French, but that is the name of the book, Mother Effin' Sharks!
I'm tired of these mother effing sharks in this mother effing ocean.
But actually, I think it's got something to do with, like, sharks coming on land. It's on KU, sounds freaking weird, sounds amazing, and I'm super excited. And out of all the books I put up on the poll, that one got the very most amount of votes. And I don't think that's surprising because of the title. It just sounds very wacky. Next up, a Richard Lehman book got the second most amount of votes, Into the Fire by Richard Lehman. This has something to do with a dude kidnapping a woman, I believe, and putting the woman in a car full of mannequins. I really don't know too much. It just sounds zany. I actually looked up a Reddit thread about the weirdest horror fiction and the most bizarre horror fiction, and this book came up, and a lot of people were saying, yeah, that book's freaking weird. So I don't know why it's so weird. Is it the mannequin element to it? Is it just because it's Richard Lehman and his books kind of go bonkers and off the rails, and there's lots of rump mentions and this and that? So anyway, it got a lot of votes in the Patreon poll, and I'm gonna read it, and I'm excited because I like Richard Lehman. Do not read him if you've not heard me talk about him before, if you're not prepared, if you've not looked up trigger warnings. Don't just go into a Richard Lehman willy-nilly or blind. You might regret it, trust me. But I like Richard Lehman, and I know what I'm getting into, so I'm kind of excited and jazzed about it, so whatevs. Next up, Don't Look Now. It's a collection of stories, but I'm going to read the story Don't Look Now, and that's by Daphne du Maurier. I think that's how you say it. Anyway, she of course wrote The Birds. She also wrote Rebecca. I have read Rebecca, and I love Rebecca, so I'm excited to read Don't Look Now. I have seen the movie adaptation, which stars my boy Donald Sutherland. For some reason, I loved Donald Sutherland, specifically in this old school army movie called Kelly's Heroes. He was a character in that movie called Oddball, and he was all like, yeah, man, like, I can't even describe it. He was like, yeah, man, I don't I don't like your negative waves, man. Like, come on, positive waves. We need positive waves.
Knock it off with them negative waves, man.
I can't do it, but it was amazing. Like, his character in Kelly's Heroes is grade A incredible, and he loves his performance in that movie.
Why don't you knock it off with them negative waves? Why don't you dig how beautiful it is out here? Why don't you say something righteous and hopeful for a change? Crap.
Hi, man. What are you doing? I'm drinking wine and eating cheese and catching some rays, you know.
What's happening?
Well, the tank's broken and they're trying to fix it.
Then why the hell aren't you up there helping them?
Oh, man. I only ride them. I don't know what makes them work.
But actually, I've seen Don't Look Now. I saw part of it back in film school. They made us watch a scene because it's got such revolutionary and unique sound editing and color usage in the movie. But later I watched the full movie, like, because I had seen clips in film school and I wanted to experience the whole movie. So I have seen the movie. I know the story. I know the reveal in the story, but I'm still excited to read the actual written story versus just having seen the movie. So it'll be a lot of fun. Maybe I should try to squeeze the movie, a rewatch, into my Halloween list, but I doubt it, because I already have 40 movies picked out, which I will reveal in the month of September later on. Alright, and I do have more weird books that I'd like to read, including Going Bovine by Libba Bray. There is audio, and I've just heard really good things about this from friends, and it just sounds like it's wacky, crazy, a lot of fun. I think it's about this younger guy who gets mad cow disease, and it's kind of about living your life to the fullest while you can, but of course more than that as well. And I think that's what I'm remembering from the premise. I don't fully remember. Then there's a book called The Hike by Drew McCary, which I'd like to get to. That's on Scribd and Libby, I think, so that'll be good. I doubt I'll get to it, but I would really love to, since it did get a lot of votes in the Patreon poll, but it's not one of my top 3 priorities for the Week of Weird. I also plan on reading a few short stories for the Week of Weird. My first it's more of a novella because I think it's over 100 pages long. I plan on reading At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft for like an old weird story because it was published way back in the day. It has audio, so I could find some audio to listen to, so it shouldn't be bad. And, by the way, the movie In the Mouth of Madness took its title inspiration from the story At the Mountains of Madness, apparently. And I kind of want to see if the movie has any resemblance to the story, because the movie In the Mouth of Madness is one of my favorite movies of all time. And even though it's not an adaptation of the story, because the title of the movie got its name from the story, I'm like, is there anything else that it has in common with the story? So that is why I'm reading it. That's like the number one reason why. I love the movie In the Mouth of Madness. If you're looking for a good Halloween watch or horror movie watch in general, that would be a great watch for you if you haven't seen it. And I would also like to get to 2 short stories by I never know how to say this. Royal Dahl, whatever the heck. You know, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Witches. He's written a lot of great old school middle grade books, and his books are dark, even for middle grade. So I heard that his short stories can be weird and dark as well. So I've got 2 picked out that I heard are very, very weird. The first short story that I have picked out, and both are in this collection, by the way. The first one's called Royal Jelly, and the second one is called The Swan. So this is a collection of his stories, Volume 2, 1954 to 1988. There are 2 collections of his short stories, but this is the later one. Alright, quickly, I'm not going to go through the summaries of these, but I'd love to squeeze in Ghosts of East Baltimore by David Simmons, also Sweet Story by Carlton Mellick III. Those are all weird books. Also, by the way, I just found out that Andrew Van Wey has another book that I kind of didn't realize. This is the same author of Head Like a Hole, which I read earlier for Amy Noel's book club, and I loved Head Like a Hole, so I want to read more by him, and this book sounds kind of like it's got the same vibes as Head Like a Hole. It is By the Light of Dead Stars, and it just seems awesome, and it definitely seems weird, so can I squeeze that in too? I don't know, probably not, but whatever, I'm gonna try. And it doesn't hurt to try, right? Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed hearing about my most insane and most epic TBR ever, because this is just not possible. I don't know what I'm thinking, but hey, it's gonna be fun to try, and we are approaching the best time of the year. So I'm excited. You might have noticed I'm wearing my spooky season earrings because by the time you're seeing this, it'll be September, baby! Yes, bitch! I'm excited, and to me, September, it kind of marks fall. So technically the first day of fall is September 23rd this year, and I usually celebrate things and kick off things that day, but I'm going to start everything on September 1st this year, and that includes, you know, decorating for Halloween, maybe watching some movies, drinking some pumpkin-y, like, flavored things. We will see what I get to. I'm definitely going to be decorating on September 1st, but I'm going to be doing things a little bit earlier than I normally do this year, and living it up, and, you know, I want to experience spooky season the best way I can. I want to be all in and just live my best spooky season themed life. So that is my whole goal, and I hope you guys will come along for the journey with me because I love this time of year every year. It's just my favorite. And I know a lot of people here feel the same, so it's great to have such a great group of people who have such similar interests and passions as me, because that just makes it even more fun to celebrate this time of year with people who feel the same. So woohoo! Thank you guys so much for checking out this long ass video, and I really appreciate it. You guys are the best. I just can't believe you take the time to watch my videos. It means the world to me. And again, special thanks to all the people participating in my Patreon readathon. Thank you, Kelsi Corns. You guys rule. I am so excited. It's carnival time. There is a song, a Mardi Gras song called It's Carnival Time, but I just made it. It's carnival time. And I'm not talking about Mardi Gras, baby. I'm talking about carnival themed reads and clown themed reads. Let's go. Let's clown around. I'm down to clown, as Katrina would say. So anyway, for this time, that is it for me. Till next time, you guys know what you can do. Keep on killing it. Bye, guys.